for the website I work for, and like it is fucking garbage, terrible. Like it takes up most of my time editing it. I'm mostly just rewriting everything that they sent us.
Contractors.
And so like, yeah, like there's definitely good contractors that exist. The contractor I worked for, we did good work, but in a lot of cases, this is like an SEO firm contracting work that we contracting work to writers. And I imagine it's that Hi-Res is probably working with a similar caliber of contract artists who are looking for the fastest route to getting their paycheck, unfortunately. And in a lot of cases, it's not that they're bad people, it's that they are getting paid so little to work on a project that they have to do such a volume of work that they don't have time to like actually do good work for everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's I don't mean to like drag people that are trying to get by. It's just the whole system sucks.
Yeah, I've browsed online freelance writing job boards and stuff in the interest of, should I try to do that? Because I like writing and I'd like to kind of move into that sphere. But then some of it's like you have to bid for it, and the lowest bidder gets it. And I'm like, I'm not going to write something that takes me like 2 hours for like $5. Like my time's worth more than that.
Yeah, I was a contract writer in high school, sort of a different world at the time, but I basically worked for SEO farms at times, and like I tried to put, because I was in high school, I could afford to try to write decent copy, but I was still getting paid like $1 an article, and it was like 100-word articles, so I'd probably be able to write like 4 or 5 of them in an hour, and then get paid $5 for that hour of work. It was not great. So I don't hate the people that I'm editing their work because they're probably working under similar circumstances.
Oh, for sure.
All super fucked.
Yep.
I have a game for Erica. It's too bad she's not here. Maybe I'll talk about it next week.
Is it Garfield?
No, I wish.
So fun fact, I wish I would have taken a photo of it, but I went to that crummy anime convention yesterday, and somebody had this giant like display of Garfield stuff they were selling, and it was like, I was like, how are you trying to sell all this Garfield stuff at an anime convention? Is the irony that high? Like,
I bet they sold stuff.
Was it like?
I bet.
Was it like legitimate Garfield stuff, like the telephone that looks like Garfield, or was it like bootleg Garfield stuff?
I couldn't really tell, honestly. It looked like it was legit, but I wasn't like checking the tags or anything. It was like mostly like stuffed animals and stuff.
Davis's lawyer's bear.
Sorry, Sam? You sounded like crap for a second.
Was it Gazork Field from Rick and Morty?
Are you using your laptop microphone?
Yeah, I think he is.
Not intentionally.
That's what it sounds like. Sounds really bad. I should be ordering a nice microphone in the next week and a half or so.
Yay!
Do you want this one?
Does that sound better?
No, it sounds the same.
I'm definitely using the Yeti.
Yeah, it'll probably be something like that.
Did you change it on your computer or in Hangouts?
Oh, now we're not hearing anything.
In Hangouts.
Oh,
okay.
Better?
That sounded better, I think. That or maybe Sam is just lo-fi.
That's probable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does it sound extremely bad?
You just sound very distant.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a fix for this. I moved the microphone closer. Microphone. Closer. Maybe the microwave was the problem all along.
Probably.
You never know.
Whoa, was that a fart?
No, I'm like legit in a new chair. It's like a leather chair.
Gotcha. Sure.
Yeah. We believe you Towns wouldn't.
Now I need to be careful in this chair. I was like, oh, this is a great new podcasting setup, and I'm like, oh.
It's all right. I just mute my microphone whenever I'm going to fart. So if I'm not talking, it's probably because
No, you need an app that turns on when you fart, not
Great new farting setup.
Oh God.
I decided, even though I have no backup, to let both boys run free tonight while we're podcasting. So we'll see how that works out.
We'll see how disastrous that is.
I'm already chasing the reflection from my watch screen on the wall.
Well,
But he does love it, but it's quite distracting.
Cats.
So watch out. Is everybody ready to do a podcast? Sorry, I turned up a little bit late, but then I just let you guys talk because you were having a fun conversation.
yeah, I'm ready.
I'm
I'm
born
good to
ready.
go.
Cool.
I don't think you were born ready to do a podcast. That would be a very boring podcast. Just lots of
Oh, so like every other games media podcast.
yeah,
Bam.
there's the joke. And
His,
on that
his
note,
first words were an advertisement for Squarespace.
Yeah.
wish Alex had the air horn app ready to go on that one.
I know. I'm actually opening it right now.
I figured you were.
All right, it's good for whenever we need it.
What about the Inception noise for when Andre makes a cool comment?
Is that supposed to happen?
I'll see if I can find an Inception noise app.
I was going to say, that sounded like a harmonica in the background.
Oh, it was just very quiet. Give me a moment. All right.
Excellent. Well done.
Yay!
See.
Wait a minute.
Yes, bangers.
Is this what I think it is?
Oh no.
What?
Yep, it is exactly what you think it is.
I put Inception noise into the Play Store, and that's what I got. A button that plays the Inception noise.
There's a website called, or there was one just called Inception Button.
I think
And
that's
that
what
was a
this
good
is.
time. I used to use the Tim Westwood soundboard a lot at work when I worked in retail. You just play a song and then you just like play like jam on random Tim Westwood quotes.
Wow,
Like,
that sounds
"Give it to
amazing.
me 2 times.
All right, I'm gonna send a link to the group chat.
Start this podcast.
No.
I found a communism button too.
What?
Oh god, a
That
Law and Order
checks
button,
out.
of course.
Yeah, I just sent you guys a link to something called My Instance, which is just a collection of buttons,
That's great.
Yeah.
and
I love
there's like
it.
500 pages of them. So enjoy.
Oh, these are a lot
Jesus.
of buttons.
I'd like to ban this completely because the top line has Bazinga in it. The second line has over 9,000. But it does have sad trombone, which I'm pretty impressed by.
And the fart button is a pretty good fart.
Oh.
Shall we get this started? I guess.
I like that. As you said, shall we get this started? I played the sad trombone button on my end. So I just said, should we get this started?
No. Our podcast is not sad trombone.
No, it's episode 21 of Gaming Fix. I don't know how much of that intro you want to keep in, Alex, but I think it's all gold.
We'll start with the fart. It's fine.
Yeah, start from the fart, as we mean to go on. I am
Total eclipse of the fart.
Episode title.
I am the episode title, Sam Harrison. With me today is Alex.
I am the metadata.
Allison.
Hi, I am trying to think of something cool to say and I can't because it's too hot.
Andre.
I am the file source location.
And our best boy, Pat.
Go.
Today we're going to talk about video games, those that we love, those that we may also not love. There are 5 games on our have played this week list, probably more. And we're going to talk about those. Then we're going to have our weekly quiz. And then after that, we are going to have a stimulating discussion led by Andre.
Stimulating.
He said he did actually send me a direct message saying only the word stimulating in air quotes, but all caps. Some of the letters were italicized, some weren't.
And it did say air quote on either side.
Yeah. And
I think when you type them out, they're just regular quotation marks.
No, but in the message it said air
Oh,
quote.
it said the words air
It
quote.
said literally air quote. Okay.
That's good.
Then air quotes was in quotations.
yeah. Excellent. So normally, as you may have noticed, I go in alphabetical order for what everyone's been playing this week. And I'm going to continue to do that. Alex, what have you been playing?
Wow, way to rock the conventions, huh?
Give me convention didn't rock.
Yeah, actually, speaking of anime conventions, this isn't what I played, but I went to one last week as well, because one other member of our podcast went to an anime convention as recently as yesterday. Brief note, Otafest in Calgary was pretty good. It was pretty huge. I went there for like many years before, because it's been around for like 20 years, and it was always like this really tiny festival or convention rather, with like maybe a couple thousand people. But this year it was like this huge convention hall with like 50,000 people, and it was nuts. And it was like slightly overwhelming. But
that's too much.
Yeah, got to meet Matthew Mercer. He was nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
cool.
he the voice of McCree from Overwatch. If you do not know,
that's why I remembered it.
Yeah,
I was going to say, did you make any McCree quotes?
I certainly did not, because I'm sure he's heard just about enough of them.
Did you ask him to say anything funny in the McCree voice?
No, I asked him what his favorite kind of salad was, and he said cob. So
that's a good salad.
Solid choice.
Yeah, I think that was a reasonable response.
Do you think anyone's ever asked what time it is?
No. If anyone did, it was not me. But
you should have got him to intro our podcast in the McCree voice.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything clever right now. Instead,
all that would have to you could just take the Overwatch sample of him saying it's high noon, and then use that for the
and then just like
podcast.
put a bunch of
And
air.
you'd be like, look, we did it.
Is it noon for anybody?
No.
But you could say it's high time you started listening to Gaming Fix.
People that listen to the recording of this don't know what time it is.
It could be noon for someone.
It's high noon somewhere.
Wow.
Oh, damn it. That's right. Sam does mention usually that it's late and he has to go to bed, and you could extrapolate where the rest of Damn.
But but video games, yo. I played one.
Oh.
Yesterday, just yesterday, I played roughly 5 hours of the video game Left 4 Dead 2. Because I had
Can I be honest with you?
What's up?
I'm more interested about why you chose to do that than your time with Left 4 Dead 2.
So I was just chatting. There's been a bunch of stuff going on for me, so I was just like reconnecting with some old friends, and one of which was my my lovely roommate from when I was in school in Boston. And we were like, we're just chatting for like an hour, and they're like, "Do you want to play a game?" I was like, "Sure." What do you got? What do you got installed? And both of us happened to have Left 4 Dead 2 installed.
Wow.
So we're like, all right, let's play a competitive game. And then we eventually got Cheska, my partner, involved as well. So we had 3 different time zones across 2 different continents. And the game actually performed really well. And I had not played that game probably since, let's say, a month after it launched. And at the time, I was like, this is pretty fun, but I'm kind of burnt out because I played a lot of the first game, which came out a year before it. And now Left 4 Dead 2 holds up. It's real fun. It's more or less mindless, but that's totally fine.
Wait, if you haven't played it since a month after it came out, why was it installed?
Well, no, it was more that it would take me about 10 minutes to install.
Okay. That's fair. Okay.
So, and yeah, it was just not a problem. But yeah, that game holds up real well, and it performs really well, especially because like I said, we were across 2 continents. We never had issues with latency. I don't know. Good game. I don't know. Has everyone here played it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I think I've just played Left 4 Dead.
It's essentially the same.
It's good. I got bored with it really fast. But it's been long enough. I could probably play through it again and enjoy it.
Yeah, it gets
It's well made.
it gets real tough. It is extremely well made, but it does get real tough.
Yeah.
Fun fact. When I was 14, I think when I was 14, Left 4 Dead 1 came out, and I was like in an active Team Fortress 2 server, and I won a copy of the game, but my computer graphics card wasn't good enough to do the lighting and like all the darkness and stuff. So when I played it, it ran fine, except it was like everything was lit. There was no shadows or anything, so I never needed the flashlight.
That's pretty lit, fam.
Yeah. I can't believe you were 14 when Left 4 Dead came out. Well, I definitely had already graduated university.
I was once told that I sounded like a 40-year-old man with his balls on the floor.
What a
I've heard this story before, and it's still good.
By someone in my Team Fortress 2 server.
Oh, it's really funny.
I guess I used to mumble a lot or something. I don't know.
And there's just constant like slapping sound coming from your floor.
God. I think that like Left 4 Dead for me, part of the reason I got bored of it really quick is it hit at a time when like it was like right. I had tasted like what progression is like in a multiplayer game, and then with Left 4 Dead it was like, oh, so there's no point for me to play this, because at the time I was very much hungry for like progression based multiplayer systems, and so I found it frustrating that Left 4 Dead 2 didn't have that. I think now I might be able to have more fun with it because now I just kind of like to play good games.
Yeah, like you're right. It is a very insular experience. Like it's every round is its own thing. You are not getting XP to have more perks in future rounds. It's just it's each round is its own thing. But that's fine.
No, totally.
You like to play good games, but you really said you liked Edith Finch, and I just I'm not sure how that marries together with that statement. It's very difficult for me.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about Left 4 Dead other than it holds up and you should play it with friends.
Excellent. Allison.
Yes.
What are you bringing this week?
Okay.
To discuss?
Sure. So the past week, the reason that I wasn't on the show last week is because I've been moving. I'm like almost done with being all completely in my new apartment, but I still have a lot of stuff to put away. But I simultaneously also bought Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition right before choosing to move, which at the time I thought was kind of a mistake, considering I know that game has a ton of content to get into. But actually, it ended up being a really good choice, I thought, partially because that game is so segmented. So, for instance, each story mission has a max time limit of about 60 minutes, but really it doesn't take anywhere near that long for me to complete it. And then the adventure mode segments are often really short, are a lot shorter. So even though that there's all this available content, the way that it's segmented and the way that the story is not particularly, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, I got to get into all the lore of this. So it's not something where I feel like I'm doing it a disservice by playing it, 30 minutes here and there when I'm waiting for a delivery, like when I was waiting for some of my furniture to be delivered or waiting in between things. So I felt like it was a really good choice, especially since the Switch is just so easy to move because for a few days, I didn't have my PlayStation 4 at my new place. I had it at my old place, and it was just kind of like, well, you'll get that later. So but my Switch is super easy to bring. Even having the dock to bring over is no big deal. And I still haven't set up my PlayStation 4, and I'm a little bit anxious about it because I took out all the cords and I have to figure out how to put it all back together. But this is just one of those things where it felt like kind of the perfect use of the Switch, as well as a really good game to play in kind of segments over the past week. And also, it's just really fun. It's a total power fantasy where it feels like it's the whole, you're defeating thousands of enemies per battle, so it just feels really good to play. And I don't have a lot of experience with the Dynasty Warriors series. I played a couple of them, but not very much, and just mostly with other people. So just kind of being able to sit back and just destroy some enemies felt very relaxing after a kind of a stressful, busy week. So I was actually surprisingly happy with that decision to buy a very big game before a move.
Looking at the video, and if anyone's watching our video version of the podcast, you're seeing this too. That looks like almost meditative in how how mindless it is.
Yeah, and there's something like one of the things that you do in those games is basically you're trying to take over territory. So you go into a room which has a bunch of enemies. You defeat a bunch of those enemies, and then you defeat the keep boss, and then you take that over for yourself. And then you see in the mini map, oh, your forces have kind of taken over this little section of the map. So it feels very satisfying I need to just like clear this map and get it as much of my side as possible, which it just feels very nice to play, especially when I'm kind of stressed out and have a lot of on my plate, just to sit back and play 60 minutes of it. And yeah.
I really, really liked Fire Emblem Warriors. I played the whole story to completion, and then went back and made sure that I 3-starred everything and played a load of missions on hard to get extra stuff. I thought that was a phenomenal game. So Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is on my list, but I decided I would play a new release game instead of an older game, even though I never played Hyrule Warriors before, so it is basically a new release. I just figured, keep up with the discourse.
I think I'm gonna probably pick up Hyrule Warriors. The last game I played of that ilk was Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2, which is 10 years old at this point, I think.
That sounds amazing.
I like the Dynasty Warriors Gundam games quite a bit, actually. They were dumb fun, but I didn't really have much affinity for the characters in Dynasty Warriors, but I like Gundam, so it was a good fit. I wanted to play Fire Emblem Warriors on Sam's recommendation, but if I'm going to play one of those games, I want to play one where I have some connection to the characters. And I started playing through Fire Emblem games, but it's going to be years before I get through a bunch of those. So Hyrule Warriors would be a good fit because I have played every Zelda game as it's come out.
Although I was looking at possibly, I was trying to going back and forth as to whether I should get Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition or Fire Emblem Warriors, because I just kind of had this urge to play one of those games. Mm-hmm. And for Fire Emblem Warriors, the roster is mostly the newer games from what I've heard.
Yeah, that's the problem. Mostly Awakening Fates and
and so those.
Which is kind of a bummer for me because I was really into Fire Emblem for Game Boy Advance when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of affinity for all of those characters, and I'm like, oh, there aren't gonna be any of those characters. So for instance, there's the Sacred Stones, and apparently there's no characters from that in Fire Emblem Warriors, which is kind of a bummer, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see them. Minorly off topic, but I would love to see them release a compilation of those 3DS Fire Emblem games for Switch. That seems like it would make a lot of sense.
What if they just released a Game Boy Classic and it had those games on it?
I'm going to buy that the second it comes out.
Yep. I mean, I would much rather have virtual console style releases, but I'll take anything at this point. I want to play old Nintendo games, and I don't want to buy more systems.
I mean, I honestly don't think that there's any reason. I mean, this is getting into whole Nintendo, what Nintendo should be doing with their old games discourse. But I mean, I honestly don't think that there's any reason that there shouldn't be both these classic consoles and a virtual console. I feel like there's enough room for both of those to coexist.
Let
Speaking
me
as somebody
tell
that's
you about the personal computer.
A thing called Dolphin.
Look, I like that as well, guys. I think Alison and I have a similar phrasing when we just want to own the real thing on a nice physical version that gets patched and updated and is good.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that either. I think that the frustration for me is more in the middle of like, I wanted to play the original Fire Emblem. Well, the first Fire Emblem in the US. I didn't play like a fan translation of the first Fire Emblem, but I started playing the Fire Emblem games as they released in the US, and like I would love to pay I would pay $10 or $15 for that game if I to have it on Switch or even on like a phone or something, but
yeah,
it doesn't exist. So what am I gonna do other than emulate?
Right. And also, I mean, I'm lucky enough in that lately I've been getting into kind of collecting and playing old Game Boy games, just because that's something that I really like. And I'm lucky enough that I have the first Fire Emblem release cart in just from when I was a kid. So I can still go back and replay it, which is great. But then if you look at it on eBay, that's one of those kind of more expensive Game Boy Advance cards. So it's like, do you really necessarily want to spend $40+ on a Game Boy Advance game from
especially when that money is not going to Nintendo anyway. It's not as if you're actually spending it in a way that gets back to them. So like there's no moral high ground to purchasing a used cart from that period. It's just
for me, I mean, I like kind of the thing that's kind of getting for me with the collection is just more of like I really do like that kind of physical response to those games.
Sure.
So especially with some of these other ones, I've been buying them for not too much. I don't want to necessarily like break the bank in any of this, but I can totally understand it, and I think it's a real shame that Nintendo hasn't really, especially with the Switch, jumped on that virtual console, just because it's like it's I feel like it's basically free money, and I don't really understand why they're like, oh, let's not re-release these Fire Emblem games that people want to play.
It's free real estate.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, even look at on the Switch store, all the Neo Geo games that they're re-releasing. It's like that's people are paying for Neo Geo games on the Switch. I feel like people would 100% pay for Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance re-releases on the Switch.
Totally.
But wait, who are you playing as in Fire Emblem or in Hyrule Warriors?
Like everyone.
You've got a lot of characters. There's a whole.
No, but who is your character of choice?
Who's your main?
I am not super far in the story. I've done some of the story missions, and I've done a decent amount of the adventure mode. But I am really digging Linkle. Linkle is
awesome.
Linkle is super fun, and her design is really cute, and her story is kind of adorable. Where basically she's somebody that like her grandmother or somebody told her, you're totally the hero of legend, and she's like, I totally believe that, even though Link's there. So she's going around, running around, and not 100% great at it, but she's really fun. But I feel like I like it.
Where Link's there, and then he's like trying to save the day, but then Linkle does it instead, just through sheer force of will.
Can you play as Tingle?
There's definitely characters in this game that are playable that I don't remember from any Zelda games.
But can you play as Tingle?
Yes, you can.
Fuck, I need to get that game.
Yeah, I know, it looks really cool. I'll probably get it later.
Put it on my rental list. Pat. I thought you were saying something. Don't worry.
No.
I thought that was your transition this time.
No. Speaking of
Pat.
This isn't a transition either. But speaking of Nintendo Classic stuff, the Nintendo UK store emailed me the other day to say they're getting NES Classics, so I pre-ordered one.
I think I saw something about UK stores taking pre-orders and shipping to America.
Oh,
Oh boy.
Wow.
So wait,
I'm
so
so tempted.
but would you have to get would you have to use some kind of converter for the power, like a transformer?
You would, yeah. But
Well, it's just USB power.
It's just USB, yeah. So you
It's
just
USB.
USB port.
Okay, never mind.
I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna put it in my loft and just forget that I own it because I don't have any urge to play it right now, but I just need to be able to if I can.
I mean, I really like my SNES Classic, so it's. I think that I definitely like the NES Classic too. It's a fun thing. It was actually the first thing I played on my new apartment.
Oh, I bought 7 SNES Classics. 5 of those were for friends of mine. So I was like, because basically I was like,
It's like
guys,
Sam.
you can get classics right now. Do you want them? And they were like, yes. So I pre-ordered for basically all of my friends on the UK store game, which didn't have a limit on pre-orders. So I got one for all my friends, and then I kept one for myself that went in the loft, and then one that what I had to play with. And the one that I had to play with, I used twice and was like, I'll just keep the one I've got in the loft and sell this one. So I sold it on and paid for both of the 2 that I kept with the one that I sold. I wasn't trying to be a scalper, but I was like, this is the suggested price on eBay. Okay.
Welcome to Capitalist Fix, our newest podcast.
Totally.
Speaking of the sick loots that I've got, Andre, I believe that you've been playing the greatest game of all time this week.
Oh God.
No, I did not play The Witcher 3, though I am going back to it, even though I've kind of wrung everything I can out of it. I picked up Diablo 3 on the PSN sale, and there was Detroit Become Fedes, I think, is just launched. So there's something to get you watch a trailer about I think about the civil rights movement, and then they give you a 20% discount or something.
They probably mention the civil rights movement more in that trailer than they do in the actual game.
Maybe
they have yet to mention the civil rights movement.
I know all about the civil rights movement in that game. I'm gonna keep my thoughts.
So when we get to that discussion, I'll bring it back up. But I've been playing Diablo 3. That I played it on PC. I'm playing on PS4 now. Playing the Necromancer because it's the Ultimate Edition or whatever, and that wasn't in the regular version that I played on PC.
Necromancer is very fun to play.
I finished the second act last night, and I don't know. That's a game. Nothing too exciting to say about it, I guess. Right now, I haven't done anything crazy. I'm not doing a hardcore or weird stuff. I don't even know what the seasonal stuff. I don't know what that is.
Next season ends pretty soon. I think it's the 2nd of June.
I don't even know what it I don't know what it is.
There's a list of objectives basically, and you can pull up the list while you're in game, and it's sort of just goals that unlock different stuff for you as you complete them.
And also, it's a ranking of how high level you can get. The seasons are ranked by the highest level you get to, and you're ranked with everyone playing Diablo on console.
And you have to make a new character every season.
Yeah. If you get to level 70 in the season, you get a item set usually.
Okay,
it's a pretty cool concept that keeps that game working.
Keeps it fresh. I usually get to level 70 every season.
Mm-hmm. That's just So I only played through it once on PC, so I'll probably play through it a couple times with different characters. I don't remember who I played with on PC. It was Demon Hunter maybe, or if not Demon Hunter, then Monk maybe. I don't even remember.
I've always sorry, Sam.
Sorry, Karen.
I've always felt that game on PC is super, 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 super boring because it's you click the mouse button a lot of times and mash number keys here and there. Like, I never found anything about that game particularly entertaining on PC. However, on console, it's a much more tactile experience because you're actually like pushing you're pushing controller buttons. It feels more like you're playing a video game that is like, it just feels like there's more skill involved in moving your character around and stuff. I always felt like on PC it was just super boring, clicky.
It does not feel that way with Necromancer, because I'm just like, okay, my little skeletons are gonna run over here and they're gonna fight, and I'm just gonna like kind of hold X. I want to make some spikes shoot up from a distance, and so like it's not the most engaging thing, but I've just been listening to podcasts and stuff, and it's really good for that, which is kind of what I've been looking for.
My goal with Necromancer is to have as many minions as possible. So I set the revive on one button, all the other minion spells on all the other buttons, and basically get all the variations of minions so that minions can be corpses. And I usually get so many that it makes the game freeze quite a lot. And on the Pro as well.
The best thing to do is to play Diablo 3 co-op with someone and play a Necromancer and then spawn a ton of minions, and then they have to deal with all of your minions being on screen.
Yeah.
Being pains in the ass.
Play a Witch Doctor and have everything that you can physically summon as a Witch Doctor. It's very stupid. It's very hard to tell what is a summon and what is an enemy. I play a lot of Diablo 3, obviously. I would say character classes. If you're going to play a hardcore run, play a Crusader or a Monk, because they have the most self-heal. And just play whatever you want. If you're going to play a season, play something you haven't played before. Demon Hunter's really silly. Everything gets good later on, but I feel like a few classes start good and stay good. I think the Barbarian is one that really comes into its own at the end, but isn't super fun for like 40 levels.
That's a lot of levels.
Yeah, that's a lot of levels.
That's like half the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty quick. And so if I'll play stuff on harder difficulties. Going forward, I'm playing on hard right now, just for that extra experience. And then after that, I'll lift it up. But yeah, nothing too exciting to say about it other than it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a video game.
But I would love to hear about. Well, I guess Pat has stuff. Oh, I really want to. Yeah, I'd love to hear what Pat has to say, but I really want to hear what Sam has to say.
Yeah. So, Pat, don't stray too far from the point.
God, that was probably your best segue yet.
Give me 1 second.
So I bounced around between a lot of stuff this week. I'm still kind of trying to get my work, video games balance in the right spot, and haven't really wanted to jump in on anything super long and that takes up a ton of time. So I picked up this game, Far, The Lone Sails, earlier this week. It's a really lovely little indie game. I kind of picked it up hoping it was going to be a roguelike survival-y kind of thing, but it's very, very much not that. It is pretty much just, I don't say just, but it's pretty much Inside or Limbo, almost to a T. But that's not a bad thing. Those games are both really phenomenal, and Far doesn't feel like it definitely feels like the developers of Far played a lot of Inside, but they do interesting things that are different, even though mechanically it's really similar. And the basic idea is that you're kind of in a post-apocalypse, and you have this land ship vehicle that has an interior that you can run around in, and you're trying to just keep it moving, keep going to the right. It's a 2D game. Very, very pretty, very interesting use of color in the game. A lot of it is pretty gray with spots of splashes of color here and there. And I think it's just a really interesting, unique thing if you're into that kind of like, I guess like 2D walking simulator is maybe the way to put it. It has puzzles, but they're very, very light. I finished all of them pretty much like a minute or two after I found them. Nothing particularly challenging from a puzzle perspective. But yeah, it's very pretty. It's very interesting. It's very much not for you if like it's $15 game. It's about 2 hours long. I think, and actually have been having a lot of thoughts around like value in games. And I think if you are maybe need to check your priorities when it comes to video games if you are going to split hairs over a $15 game. I definitely think there's something to be said for like, I paid $60 for this AAA experience and it lasted me 2 hours. That would be something to complain about, but
It's like The Order.
Sure, right, absolutely. But like $15, like it's less than lunch in a lot of large American cities anyway. Like, I don't know, that seems like, to me, that's very much worthwhile for an experience that someone clearly poured a lot of heart and soul into, even if it didn't result in a super long game. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth checking out. I think Sam would hate it because he doesn't like his games to be particularly artistic. They got to just be a lot of like mashing buttons repeatedly over and over again.
So
Okay,
wait,
let's talk about art.
Wait.
Also mashing buttons. I have a game for you.
Wait,
I feel
but-
like
but
Matt,
Pat-
you had something else you want to
Art-
talk
Yeah.
about before we get to the main event.
Pat, I have
So-
wait. I have one question about Far.
Yeah.
Is there anything in that game that seems like it would benefit from being made into a real doll, like
Oh, God.
with Inside?
So actually, on that point, I would say the
So
big
you
thing I would
put this
say
boat.
the big thing I would say about Far versus Inside is I don't remember. I think I blocked out a lot of the ending of Inside from my mind. Obviously, I remember the flesh ball. I don't remember that game ever getting any like brighter. It just like starts rough and is rough
Yep.
forever. Far is not like that at all. Far is very earnest. It's very hopeful. It's very, I wouldn't say happy because it's sad in that you're in a post-apocalypse and it's a lonesome journey, but it's earnest in a way that I think is really, really beautiful, and it's about discovery and exploration and survival in a way that I think is like positive, and I left it feeling good, not feeling like, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Inside either. I love that kind of like disturbed, dark feel, but it was nice to play something in that vein that is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. It's actually like very happy and hopeful.
Ooh,
Are there some reveals or kind of discoveries in that game? Kind of, I mean, not as dark, obviously, as the ending of Inside, but you know, just kind of that have that level of impact. Or
No, I would not say that. I would say that there is a moment, there is one sort of reveal that is probably the best moment in that game. That probably is something I will try to keep in mind for best moment when I'm talking about games at the end of the year. But it is one that I would mention and say is really good, but like the ending of Inside is like, it's not as good as that, or in terms of like the impact, emotional impact. Inside is much more, I think, powerful emotionally than this game. Now, the emotion that Inside is trading on is like disgust and and horror, but and Far is more, I don't know, it was like, oh wow, that's interesting, that's poignant, and it made me kind of smile, and then you do a very cool thing. But I wouldn't call it some great deep reveal. It's more just like a cool little thing that makes sense over the course of the game when you get to it.
well, for sure. Well, I'm definitely interested in playing that just because I do love games like that. But the idea of it being more hopeful than Inside or Limbo is intriguing.
Yeah, it's very nice. It was a nice thing to stumble on, and I'm glad that I found out about it and that it popped up. I haven't really heard anybody else talking about it either, which is too bad because I think it deserves to be played for sure. But yeah, I'll say briefly too. I started playing some of State of Decay 2. That game seems real good. It also seems really like State of Decay 2. If you're not interested in a zombie management game or like zombie survival management sim, that's what it is. And it's definitely like you spend a lot of time in menus. It's a little janky. Spend a lot of time like running to the fast food store across the street to pick up a rucksack of food to feed your people. So I don't think it's for everybody, but it's a fun, it's interesting, and some of the ways they play with character archetypes is really cool. Like I started with this couple that was like, they kept like the backstory on them was like they kept breaking up and getting back together and breaking up and getting back together, and like the apocalypse hasn't changed that cycle of like self-destruction in their relationship. And but they think they finally got it this time, and like they're gonna try to live this thing out together. And then they have traits, and the traits are like can range from like a sport shooter where they have good, they're good with a firearm because they were a sports shooter, to like this person is a kleptomaniac, or this person is even things totally unrelated that you wouldn't think would have any, like sci-fi geek. This, and there's just lots of neat little traits. The thing is that is why I think it'll be a barrier for a lot of people, is that that's not borne out once you really start playing. Like the fact that they're in a relationship is briefly touched on in the tutorial sequence at the beginning, but it's not, the game doesn't really have any kind of narrative to it that would push them forward. It's pretty generic in terms of how the survivors are portrayed. So you kind of have to think all that stuff up in your head and put those dots together yourself. But it plays well, and it's the menus are way more intuitive than State of Decay 1. So if that game looked interesting to you, but the lack of polish on it was the thing that turned you away, it's might be worth checking out State of Decay 2.
The thing that this is a little bit of an aside, but when you mentioned that it was a zombie management sim, I immediately thought that you're talking about managing the zombies, and I'm kind of disappointed that's not what it's about.
And to be clear, I actually don't like zombies that much. I think they're pretty boring in general. This is one of the few games that I actually think they're kind of cool in, or the setting is kind of cool anyway.
What? You don't think Plants vs. Zombies is cool?
Well, and like I don't, not to drag it, but like I don't particularly like the mass-produced Left 4 Dead style zombie shooters that just started to get churned out during that time were really tiring to me. And I don't really like The Walking Dead. I don't really like most zombie movies. I'm pretty anti-zombie generally.
How do you feel about Freakers?
God. Oh boy.
So State of Decay 2 is a game I have no desire to play, but after hearing like you talk about that couple that is brought up in the tutorial, and listening to Austin Walker from Waypoint talk about his experience with the game, is a game I look forward to hearing people like flesh out their experiences.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this happened, and like build their own narrative around.
Yep.
And like hear about those experiences, but I have no desire to play that game.
Yeah, it's a lot of busy work in the game itself. I wouldn't, kind of like Austin, I would have reservations about wholeheartedly recommending it to people. Because yeah, it is a lot of like I played it for an hour last night, and most of that time was spent like, well, now I'm low on medicine, I got to go do that, and now I'm low on food, I got to go get some food. And it's not like it's like super tense or engaging. It's more like, fuck, now there's 4 zombies in front of me, and I got to kill them all before I can get to the food. It's I enjoy it, but it is basically just replenishing numbers, the game, and then eventually you have time to go and move things forward a little bit and get to a bigger base or something. But yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, I always feel like it's not that hard to inject an interesting story into that sort of game. I don't know. Like, I've downloaded it. It's on my Xbox, but
I would
play it.
I would not play it if it had a story, because the interesting thing about that game to me is the management part. And if I had to also, this is probably part of why I didn't play the first one through that much. I don't like the idea of having like a storyline on top of this thing. To me, the storyline is the story that I make for the characters while I'm playing it. And to have any of that part of it's kind of like people who play pen and paper role-playing games. Like there are people who really, really love just playing through adventure books that they buy, that their DM buys at the game store, and like they're playing through pre-authored adventures. I prefer pen and paper role-playing where the DM reacts more on the fly to what the players want to do. And that's kind of like the differences there. I think you're right in that injecting a narrative into this game wouldn't be that hard, but I think it would remove a lot of if they did that, I would be like, well, give me the sandbox mode because I don't want to play the story mode. I just want to play the sandbox mode. And that's part of why I don't think it's for everybody, though, for sure.
There's a really cool iPad game. I don't know what the status of it is, whether it's still a game you can buy and play, called Rebuild, which was basically zombie Civ.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly, highly recommend it as someone who, again, doesn't like zombie games. You would have like hero survivors with cool traits, and like you would slowly build out the base, and you'd have like fences, and you'd like slowly push the fences further and further out. But the goal's always to, in the same way as Civ, there's win goals. There were goals like you could escape by helicopter, or you could cure the virus. Like there were loads of different ways to do it. I played that game for like years on my iPad.
This is a little looking at, I just Googled it. I know what you're talking about. This has like a few minor similarities to that in that it is, you are building up, like you're managing survivors and managing your base. But I think the thing that is really going to kill it for a lot of people is the busy work involved in like, yes, eventually you can build farm stuff so you don't have to worry about food anymore. But like the resources required to build the farms and the amount of space required to build the farms outweighs their usefulness when you could be using the slots in your base to build things that are more directly impactful rather than just providing passive food. But if you don't do that, then you have to be providing food. Like a rucksack of food, which you can carry one of, takes like 10 to 15 minutes, maybe a little less to go get. And that contains like 3 to 5 pieces of food, and your base uses a piece of food per survivor. You start with 4 survivors. So essentially you need to spend per in-game day around a half an hour going to get food. And the in-game days are like 2 to 2.5 hours long, I think, around there. So like that's and there's other consumable resources too. So you're also going out to get those other consumable resources. So you spend like most of your time replenishing your stock of stuff that your people need, and then every 2-hour play session you might get a half hour of time to go and scout out a new base or move to a new area. And I'm sure that changes as you get deeper into the game and you automate some of those processes. So I don't want to like suggest that forever and always in the game you're spending more time getting resources than you are doing anything else. But in my experience, that is a big part of the game. The fun part and the thing that I enjoy is that time when shit goes sideways and this routine food grab, I just wandered out to go get food, and then a blood plague zombie jumped on me, and now one of my people has a blood plague, and it adds a whole new layer of like, shit, now I got to think about this too. That sort of tension is present all the time in State of Decay 2, but for some reason it feels less stressful to me than it does in games like Darkest Dungeon and other kind of like similar like this game is really hard kind of games. So it's a little bit more fun for me still to have to deal with the ways things go bad rather than like, well, shit, now I may as well just start over.
Okay, cool.
Did you like Dead Rising?
Yes, I do actually. That's one of the other few zombie games I like. I never played anything past the first one, but I did everything in the first one. I got every achievement in it.
The second one was really good.
So I've heard
of Dead Rising, like I haven't beaten it. I got it on PS4 in like the remastered version, and I got to the point, spoilers for Dead Rising, I got to the point where like the army or whatever SWAT team comes.
Yep.
And
that's
then
so fun.
It just kind of killed my interest in the game.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Speaking
move
of
on.
killing interest in games,
Ah.
Yeah, so classic segue there, Andre. No, so I've been playing a video game today. I think I've probably played about 4 or 5 hours, maybe. Basically, in 2 big chunks. I played for quite some time, then had dinner, then played until about half an hour before we started recording. So I've been playing Detroit Become Human, written and directed by David Cage, which it says extremely prominently when you first load the game during the credit sequence, which is when I realized Lance Henriksen was in the game, because I knew Clancy Brown was in it because his face is in a lot of the trailers. And they very clearly mocapped him because it looks exactly like Clancy Brown. Yeah, so a bit of history on David Cage games and Quantic Dream. I loved Fahrenheit. I liked Heavy Rain, and I didn't finish Beyond Two Souls. Or if I did finish it, I don't remember it, so I might as well not have. From memory, I do think I actually got extremely close to the end, and then got very frustrated by a QuickTime section, or maybe the lack of Willem Dafoe. I don't know.
but can't you just fail all those QuickTime sections? We've
I
all
think
we've
there's
all
a
seen the
limit.
Heavy Rain video.
Yeah. Well, if you failed enough notes in a song in Fahrenheit, your character would hang themselves. So
I forgot about
Fahrenheit's
that.
very good video game. That part notwithstanding.
yeah, there's a couple of extremely funny parts in Fahrenheit if you make the wrong choices that I do not think were intentionally funny. Yeah, so I mean, like, Detroit's super interesting, especially having played A Way Out like 2 months ago, which is kind of biting its shtick, but obviously multiplayer. So I will say a couple of things about the story, in that I think the characters are all really cool so far. You play as androids in this kind of society that's kind of still coming to terms with androids existing. It's got a lot. It feels like they've done their homework in some parts, but not in others. Like, for example, they talk about how androids replace regular workers. And that's big tension in the game between people who have had their jobs stolen by androids. It's like menial labor jobs are no longer necessary. It's cheaper to buy an android than to hire a person. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff in it. There's loads of magazines littered around that talk about the like geopolitical situation, and that's really interesting. Sorry, I'm hearing some very weird cat noises, and I want to make sure they're not like destroying something. Yeah, so the geopolitical situation is super interesting. Like, basically, well, no, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's vaguely interested in the game.
Is anyone here vaguely interested in the game? We probably shouldn't spoil it in case anyone listening
Like,
is.
I'm vaguely interested in knowing exactly what happens in this game,
Yeah,
but not
that's kinda what I'm
necessarily
at.
playing it.
Yeah. Cheska and I plan on playing it. She'll be here in about a week and a half, so.
Cool. We shouldn't spoil it for anyone who's listening either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
There's one thing that I want to say that is not a spoiler, but kind of tells you the level of writing that David Cage is working on. The androids have to go at the back of the bus. There's a special compartment in the bus.
It's a
The
special
android
compartment.
which is at the back of the bus.
So that's
They don't get seats. They have to stand
But this
up.
game isn't political, though, right? Isn't that what he said? It was like, this isn't a political game, but the androids are just at the back of the bus.
and I think this is like the like, okay, it's set in Detroit, and the androids have to sit at the back of the bus. but it's not political, and we're not going to reference the civil rights movement at any point. Like I don't know.
No, they're not going.
That shit makes my blood boil.
They're not going to. They're not going to say civil rights movement. But they're going to say we have a dream.
Right. That's just
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Okay. Sam, would you maybe say that I don't know, Connor's story is like Blade Runner, but the androids are the good guys?
I'm not too far. Like, it's difficult to say because I'm not far in any of the storylines.
Because I'm pretty sure David Cage said that.
Didn't he also
Okay.
say it's like if Deckard was an android?
No, but he
Okay.
did say
Did you just
he
make that
did,
up?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did say if the androids were the good guys.
Okay.
He might have said something about Deckard being an android, but that might have been a joke that other people made about.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta know.
It's hard to fucking tell.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen Blade Runner 2049?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a fascinating, like, hour-long interview-style talk with James Cameron and Denis Villeneuve just ahead of Blade Runner 2049 coming out. And I didn't mean to say James Cameron. I meant to say Ridley Scott.
I was
Okay.
really
I was gonna
confused.
say,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it would be a
oh,
weird thing.
I get those two mixed up, and I couldn't explain why. So
James Cameron
Scott,
directed the sequel to Alien.
You don't want to
Yeah,
see
that
this
makes
bullshit. You want to see Avatar 3, 4, 5. Not 2, because 2 is going to be bullshit, and I already know.
so Denis Villeneuve, they're all on stage, and basically the interviewer is like, so Ridley, a lot of conversations happened over the years over whether Deckard is or is not a replicant, and Ridley Scott's like, yeah, he's a replicant. The film does not work on a story basis if he is not a replicant. And then Denis Villeneuve just goes, I don't think so. And I'm making the sequel where we answer that question. And basically there was like 3 minutes of really uncomfortable conversation / silence. And then they kind of carried on.
Wait. Okay. But like, it's not even a spoiler that he is in the sequel.
He's definitely not.
Oh God. Okay.
the whole
This is
thing,
a conversation for another time.
I still haven't seen it, so I can't weigh in.
Yeah, Pat, watch that movie again.
No, you watch that movie again.
And then one of you has to watch XXX Return of Xander Cage.
I mean, I'll take that bullet if, you know. Anyway, Detroit Become Human is a video game. I don't really...
Debatable.
I can't give a value judgment on it yet. There's been loads of stuff that's been really interesting. Fiona's been watching me play the game, and she doesn't really watch me play stuff. She doesn't like... she's not a huge fan of the normal things that, like, previous girlfriends have watched me play Telltale games, for example, and been like, oh, I'm invested in X, Y, Z choice or whatever. But she doesn't like that. She wants to play. Like, if there's a Telltale game, she wants to be in charge, which is absolutely fine. But she really enjoyed watching me play Detroit, and she kept it, like, she's packing to go on holiday, and she's having a hen do this weekend, and she like was walking back into the room like, what's happened while I was upstairs? And like, she was super into the game, and I thought that was really cool. All the faces are fantastic. Some are better than others. Weirdly, some of the main character faces are worse than the NPCs. Like Connor's face is very... I think that the face capture actor that they used for Connor is purposefully trying to be very like unemotional and robotic. He looks like he's someone who has no emotions faking it. The Marcus, the other character, is super interesting as well. Yeah, Marcus, sorry, I just keep getting a million messages for some reason. Yeah, Marcus, the other character, is super interesting, but I think I'm the most invested in kind of a tie between Kara and Connor's story. There was a really super interesting crossover in the latest chapter that I played. So like,
Was it the most ambitious crossover?
it wasn't. It was more ambitious than you would expect from a David Cage game, having played a lot of them.
I don't know. I expect lots of ambition from David Cage.
I just don't
Yeah,
expect-
like whether
if
he
I
can.
expect anything out of him, it's ambition.
Yeah.
Okay, followed up on ambition.
That I just don't believe you on.
Basically, for the first like 4 hours of the game, every single chapter is like an act of that person's story, and you switch from character to character to character based on like kind of like time of day. So like if someone's doing something interesting at 9 in the morning, you go see them, and then at the 10 in the morning slot, you go see them. So it kind of everything plays kind of chronologically. But there was a really cool moment where you're playing one character who's on the run, and you look out a window and you see Connor, and like you see Connor having a conversation, and like Connor is a detective. You see Connor having a conversation, and then you're playing Connor, like you're playing one character, and then you're instantly playing the other, and then it shifts back and forth, and there's like a really cool chase scene where you're chasing but also running away, and there's like QTEs, and you can do well as one character on purpose or badly, or it was really cool.
So it's like Resident Evil 6, like towards the end of the game, where you're all like ending up in, I think, in Japan, and then like you're in a firefight, and then overhead you see a plane crashing, but then you realize that Leon's on that plane because it's Air Force One, and then they all meet up and they cross paths.
Not so much.
I'm emphatically that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so far I have not seen any super offensive civil rights movement appropriation, except for the back of the bus thing.
I guess it's less the appropriation that bothers me, like individual instances. It's more like the whole thing is a major appropriation of, like, there's the whole thing is analogous to the civil rights movement, and they seem to be unwilling to like discuss that, which is the thing I think is frustrating about it.
It's hard to say really for me, because like I haven't really been following the discourse around the game. Once, basically, the second that the abusive parent trailer was debuted at E3, and everyone was like, "This is bad. We hate it. It's bad." I essentially checked out on all media coverage of the game because I knew that I wanted to play it, and I can often tolerate things that people think are bad, or are hokey or clumsy for the cinematic nature of Cage's games, which you kind of don't get anywhere else. Like there are no games like David Cage games. Even A Way Out was very cinematic.
I would say Until Dawn was
definitely
right there. Right
Until Dawn is way better than any David Cage game that I have played.
I would agree.
100%.
And I don't like horror, and
I loved that game.
I expected to hate that game.
As did I.
I hate horror movies.
I love horror, and I love the horror that game is riffing on. And I didn't play it until last November because my partner said we should play it because I thought I was going to hate it. So
I rented it from Redbox, and I played it from like 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Literally, I played it in one sitting until dawn.
I played that in 2 sittings as well, and I also rented it. It was the game that I used on the free trial for the rental service that I use.
I liked it so much, I went and I bought it.
Yeah.
They gave it away on PS Plus, so that's how I own it.
I guess like
they eventually did that too. So
to get back to Detroit, I think the thing that is like that I find particularly infuriating is like having lived in. Yeah, it's like he talked about how I seem to recall, and I can't give you an exact source, but he talked about how like Detroit's story is the story of the real life city is integral to the game.
He
which
says
is
the fourth character in the game is the city of Detroit.
Yeah, which is fucking bullshit for one. I can tell you right now from everything I've seen. He knows absolutely nothing about the city of Detroit.
I'd like to point out that he refers to it as the fourth playable character.
Oh my god.
You play as those
Sorry.
two characters. The city is not
Okay.
playable.
So
So
like Metroplex.
so like there's
Macron.
that.
That's a good twist.
Right now in this country, there's like a huge national conversation happening about the ways in which oppression and race and government and everything interact, which he can't control. And I'm not saying that no one from another country is allowed to make art that is critical of or takes or talks about what happens in the US or any other country by any means. But it's like he doesn't understand the place he's setting the game in. He doesn't understand the climate that the game is being released in. And the way he talks about like science fiction with robots in it, he doesn't even seem to understand the material he's drawing inspiration from either. So it just seems like so wildly off the mark in every way that I guess I don't know how to even like, I wouldn't even know how to approach playing it, I guess. It just, I don't know.
I mean, I think for me, it's difficult. It's difficult to reconcile it because, like, Stan Lee created X-Men as a metaphor to help people understand the civil rights movement, which then morphed into LGBT rights.
Sure.
In more recent years. But like is still very much talking about like when Iceman came out as gay recently, he basically the character, like they said, oh, why have you been straight all this time? And he said it was hard enough being a mutant, I didn't want to be gay as well. And like,
sure.
You know, I think it's really interesting. And like they did have a gay writer on the Iceman solo book, and it's very good. If anyone has time to read that, it's something I'd recommend. It's very fun. But yeah, it's hard to reconcile David Cage writing that because, like, yes, he's the head writer, but I don't know anything about David Cage apart from that he's an asshole.
Right. Yeah.
And that he writes games that have extremely poor execution in the end.
And I don't mean to suggest that nobody else should enjoy playing this game either, to be clear. Like, I'm not judging anybody on this show or anywhere else that would play it and get something out of it, because people finding joy in things is my favorite thing. So like it's great. It's just when I see that game, I just see a disastrous piece of fiction that I can't like wrap my head around, and it's hard. Like I feel like that has to be part of the conversation when you critically discuss it, and so far I haven't really heard as much of that as I would have expected to hear, I guess. People seem to be a lot more accepting of a lot of its like missteps. Again, I haven't played it, so I'm going off of what I've heard other people say about it that are talking about it. Maybe they're way off base. Maybe it's nowhere near as bad as they make it out to be.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, when talking about games, are a lot more forgiving of things like story or character or just things that are beyond, gameplay and if it looks good. I feel like in general that's something that I feel like the games industry needs to kind of grow from, is that they're still like, wow, this game is doesn't crash on me all the time. It's 8 out of 10. Like, I don't want to get into like a whole like what's score inflation or whatever,
yeah.
but I feel like at a certain point I don't know if there's quite the same level of discourse surrounding games, especially in terms of analyzing story or character or anything like that in the same way that there is for something like film.
I think we have a tendency to hold a Destiny 2 expansion storyline to the same standards that we hold a game that is trying to tell a complex story about racial analogies to robots and in an embattled city that's still on the upright. Like, those are two different kinds of things. So I don't think it's fair to say like, oh, the story in Warmind is kind of shit, and then like use that as like a comparison point to stories like Detroit. Like I just don't think that just doesn't work to me, and I think we still are evolving in our discourse around games to like account for that, I guess.
Right, and games it's still fairly recent that games are able to even attempt to tell like an engaging complex story. So I feel like that's just an area to grow, because
let me tell you about Kingdom Hearts.
From what I've heard recently about Kingdom Hearts, I should probably play Kingdom Hearts. The more I'm hearing,
the story's
about
pretty simple, pretty clean. So
oh god.
But back to Detroit Become Human. David Cage has fucked up by this point in every other David Cage game I've played. So like the story is still pretty interesting. There's definitely like a couple of things. There's a couple of scenes that I've played that I really, really enjoyed. And there's been a couple of jump scares, which is not very David Cagey.
Weird.
I'm surprised about that, honestly.
Kind of cool.
I was super surprised when the first one happened, because I was like, this is a spooky area, but like it's a David Cage game, and then like basically somebody ran past the camera in the dark in the corner of your vision, and I was like, no, I'm out. No, this is what I want. Cool. I honestly like. I would recommend this over every other David Cage game, probably even including Fahrenheit. Definitely Heavy Rain and Beyond. This is beyond Heavy Rain and Beyond, but so far by a huge margin. The characters are way more interesting, like the three main characters are genuinely like I care about what's going on with them. I'm interested to see where their story goes, and like each of them has had really interesting relationships with other characters in the game that are like quite well told, and not just told by like a dialogue thing, or it's told by like looks and the way that they like touch each other or look at each other, or like the way that they act around each other is genuinely like actually interesting. I'm not telling anyone to go out and buy this game. Like I rented it, and I think that that's probably the way that my payment relationship with this game will stay. I don't see this being one of the ones that I pay the rental people to keep, which I do fairly regularly, but I don't think I'm going to with this one. It might be something that I would eventually pick up again. Like when we were playing it together, Fiona was like, I really want to see what the other endings are. I think we should replay this together. So like that, like for certain specific scenes. And to the video that's playing, also they changed some of the dialogue and the interactions from the demo to the main game, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because if you're like me, I played that demo to get every available ending and dialogue option. And so when I went into the game, I was like, yeah, this item's here, this item's there, this has what? Why isn't that there? And like had to like look around and like change some stuff, and that was really cool. I knew a little bit too much about the scenes that have been in trailers. So like the scene with the abusive dad, like I knew where the gun was in the house, so I made sure that I looked at that before so that I could have it later in the game. Like there was stuff that I knew that like if I'd gone in blind, I think I might have been worse at that game.
Sure.
For all the scenes that I have gone in completely blind at, I've been like, oh fuck, I fucked that up. I fucked up in like an interrogation scene as Connor, like quite badly. There was a couple of dialogue options that I thought were like, try another tactic, and it was actually give up and leave, stop interrogating. So you know, there's wrinkles. I'll talk fully about the game next week because I will have finished it. I expect to finish it tomorrow morning, or tomorrow lunchtime. But I can't recommend it yet. I can, however, say that if you have liked David Cage games before, or if you like Telltale games, I'd probably say give it a shot. Maybe not at full price until I've seen the ending through. And I've seen people talking about the ending as if it is terrible. And David Cage cannot stick landings with video game endings. Fahrenheit is the closest he's ever come to a good ending for a game, and it's not very good. So, yeah, like everybody remember the Origami Killer and how that was.
It was terrible.
Red herring that they never explain.
What if the android was you all along?
What if the android?
That is the case in.
I read about like the secret ending, and that's something.
What about if your android passes out for an entire chapter, and then that's the red herring all along?
What if the beginning of the game was actually 2/3 of the way through the story?
What if there were two cool androids who were twins, but they were turned into androids by like an evil doctor who wanted revenge on the little boy who repeatedly like thwarted his evil plans to take over the world, and then it was Dragon Ball.
And then ghost bugs.
What if the androids were twins and then they were called Devilo and Popola and we were just playing Nier instead?
Oh God, I wish we were playing Nier instead.
These are a lot of really good questions.
Surprise, Nier instead.
I've got 5 questions with which you can earn points.
Oh, segue. Okay.
I still would rather be playing Nier.
I heard they updated their privacy policy.
Yeah, that was extremely funny.
That was
a really good one. Yes.
That was top tier. Yeah.
I think it was fob washed.
Question 1. Left 4 Dead 2 is not available on which platform? Is it A, PlayStation 3, B, Linux, C, Mac OS X? So A, PlayStation 3, B, Linux, C, Mac OS X. Let's see your answers in 3, 2, 1. Everyone who wrote A, you get a point. So that's.
Damn it! I couldn't remember.
Bam. Because Valve was not very happy with Sony for quite some time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that's right.
Sony for some reason.
I just couldn't remember the timeline there.
Portal 2 is when they made nice.
Yeah.
Question 2. True or false? Far Lone Sails was made with Amazon Lumberyard.
I don't have
A is
any
true.
idea what the answer to this question is.
Trolls.
That's a 3, 2, 1. Everyone who put B, you're right, it's false.
Right.
It was made
Damn.
with Unity.
What was
I
it made
don't
with?
remember any Amazon logos when I started that game. So
What was it made with instead?
Unity.
Unreal.
Oh, it was just Unity? Okay.
It's an asset flip.
If that's an asset flip, I want to know where those assets came from because they are charming as fuck.
Just the Unity store.
So good.
What is Detroit Become Human currently sitting at on OpenCritic?
Oh God damn it!
God, not another one of these.
Back.
Damn.
I feel like this is a
Hey.
personal attack on me.
A, OpenCritic is better than every other critic aggregator website.
That's
Uh,
a weird answer.
It's a weird
Your
answer for
number
that
Detroit to
question.
be at.
That's also like a very weird, not great pool that you're pulling from.
No, it's like Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, or OpenCritic. And OpenCritic, I feel like, is the best.
Wait, Rotten
Anyway.
Tomatoes does games?
Yeah, like
Do they?
infrequently.
Did I?
Jesus,
Oh.
No idea.
I'm sure I've seen it. I could
I'd love to see a video game with a certified fresh thing on the cover.
That'd be amazing.
What is currently sitting on OpenCritic? Is it A, 80%, B, 65%, or C, 92%? That's A is 80%, B is 65%, C is 92%. Let's have your answers in 3, 2, 1. Show them. Everyone who put A, you get correct. That's everyone.
Good. I changed it. I picked the answer that I wanted it to be, and then I switched it in the end.
Yeah, C was pretty wrong, Pat. I don't know why you would have gone
Yeah,
for that.
totally. Yes. Yeah.
So
That is the one I was. Yeah.
this
Such a
one is-
fanboy.
Yeah. That's me.
This one is related to Andre's discussion topic.
Mm.
And this is the question that I am most looking forward to asking in this.
Everyone has to refer to me as the moon god from now on.
The hoop,
Okay.
the hoop god.
The hoop god. Yeah.
The moon
God.
god.
Which of the following slogans was used by Sony from 1982 to 2002?
Oh Jesus!
A. Sony, technology that moves you. B. Your best choice. C. It's a Sony.
Wait. Before we answer,
I want one to be so true so bad.
wait. But are these all slogans that they used at some point?
Nope.
Okay.
Two of them.
Okay, also-
Yeah.
Okay, can you
Is
repeat
C-
this, please?
Is C it's a Sony or it's a Sony?
It's a Sony. It's a Sony.
I
I'm
know
gonna just
that
go
I
with the
know
one
that
I want it to be.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Just so you're aware, I made up two of these.
I don't doubt that.
As
but
a
one of
marketing
them is
professional, Sam,
very, very real, and was
If
used
I-
for 20 years.
if I was hiring for a new marketing person, I would hire you based on those answers that you.
Okay, so A is technology that moves you. B is your best choice. And C is it's a Sony.
I'm just picking the one I want to.
Yep.
Let's see your
I bet it's all
answers.
gonna be the same one.
See your answers in 3, 2, 1. Anyone
Oh.
who said it's a Sony, you are right.
Yeah.
20
I really want-
years,
I just-
Sony's slogan was it's a Sony.
I
I
love,
love-
it's a Sony.
I love the complexity though behind your best choice because
Yeah.
that could be like, it's not. The tone of that doesn't necessarily say like it is the best option available on the market. It says like you personally can't probably afford the better thing.
Yep,
So,
that's. And I just thought it was the best choice in the quiz. So
yeah,
Look, you're not getting a bonus. We know you're not getting a bonus. Just settle. Get a
yeah.
I love it's a Sony though, because that's such like a nondescript statement. It's like it's a Sony.
But it's like, oh
Good,
man, that's so
bad,
cool. What is it? Oh, it's a Sony. I
It's
think
a
the way
Sony.
I think the way Sam said it did a disservice.
I also though like technology that moves you is, to be clear, the best out of those three options from a
Oh.
like.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
from a
Well,
marketing
marketing
standpoint, okay, for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah,
that
I
was
just
what I wanted to pick, but I was like, it can't. Like, it's a Sony. No, Sam could not come up with it's a Sony.
Yeah,
I just-
definitely could
I
have
just-
it.
I just no, because I imagine that the person who was who's the marketing manager like woke up late and was like, "Shit, I don't have anything. What's our new slogan? You got to pick it. It's a Sony," and they're like, "We'll take it." It's just
I like
such a nondescript.
Wow.
Like it's a Sony.
wow.
I'm sure this
It's a
isn't
Sony.
specific to video games, but like I like the idea that Sony saw like Mario and their response was like, "Fuck yeah, we're just gonna
It's a
say
Sony.
it's a Sony," and they're like starting the like corporate digs. Then
if the if the Nintendo Sony CD thing came out, that could have
Yeah.
been. We could still
Totally.
be saying it's a Sony today.
True.
Question 5. What
Oh
year
God, there's another one.
was Hyrule Warriors originally released for Wii U? Is it A, 2016, B, 2013, or C, 2014? That's A, 2016, B, 2013, C, 2014.
I think I remember where I was when that came out for some reason.
Answers in 3,
in line at GameStop to pick up your
Yeah.
copy.
I was ready for it, baby.
Answers in 3, 2, 1. Show them. Everyone who put C, you're correct. So that's everyone but Andrew.
It's a Sony.
That's the new correct answer, chick. It's a Sony.
It's. I changed my mind. This has to be the episode title now.
It's a Sony.
It's a Sony.
I had an episode title earlier on from something that Pat said, but I've forgotten what it was. I was waiting for an opportune moment. it was way, way, way earlier when we were talking about Left 4 Dead. I'm really upset I can't remember it. It was very funny.
I was still going to use the farting one.
Yep.
It's
It's a Sony Sticks, though. Yes, thank you.
Andre, I believe you wanted to lead us in a spirited discussion.
Yes, a stimulating discussion, please.
Ooh.
Air quote, stimulating, unair quote, discussion. So I'm sure you would all seen the kind of comments that had come out from the discussion with John Codera, the person who has replaced Andrew House at Sony, talking about, we're going to focus on putting out software right now so we can kind of keep things afloat because we expect hardware sales to slow down as they prepare for probably like a 2020, 2021 launch of whatever the next PlayStation console will be. And there were some weird comments like they expect portable gaming isn't dead at Sony. So well, that's interesting. But
they should tell retailers that.
What I'm curious about is, do you think we'll see another shift in like public favor with the console manufacturers? Like PS2 was top of the world, then Xbox 360 came along, and that kind of ate Sony's lunch. Like the cell processor was like a weird thing that kind of threw things off track for them, and then they brought it back with the PS4. And they've been kind of sitting pretty, and I don't know if they're in like the same position they were at the start, like the end of the PS3, start of the PS4 era, like with all these changes in management that have kind of happened in the last 6 months to a year, like Kaz Hirai leaving Sony and Andrew House leaving, and Adam Boyes, there we go. Adam Boyes leaving. And like, he was third-party relations, but a lot of like management people leaving, and I don't know if they're gonna have like Sean Layden isn't like a Jack Tretton type. He always seems kind of fake and like not quite, like he got a real good grade in public speaking class with all his gestures, and like if he just says anything, he has to do the gesture, I think. But yeah, do you think do you think Sony can pull off another like hit console, or are they gonna stumble?
I mean, my biggest question in that is, in terms of finding who's going to be the top of the heap for the next one, like who's going to really replace them? Mostly because I just don't really see Xbox coming back, especially since they don't have that many exclusives, although it could definitely be wrong. But I don't know if Xbox is really at a great point right now to like take over, and Switch still feels like kind of niche in a weird way. Like on the one hand, it's really popular, but on the other hand, I don't see it as like replacing, like a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. So I don't know.
I think you're probably going to see like the three big console manufacturers continue to like diverge, in that the Switch is going to continue to go down its path. I think that the Xbox is going to continue to move in the direction of being a PC alternative, and that the PlayStation is going to continue to be the most traditional, like this is a console-ass video game console that also has a Blu-ray player in it. I think that's probably the way that things will pan out, but I also don't think that they can't sell a PlayStation 5 until there is some like insane leap forward. Like if you were to tell me right now that they're planning on announcing a PlayStation 5 at the next E3 or 2, I would say the only way they can make that work is if they like position it as a VR console that comes with a headset, or like something along those lines that is an existing technology that would be unique to have in your living room, I guess. Because as it stands right now, like the video games that are coming out now don't look demonstrably different to a normal person compared to the ones that came out 4 years ago. To us, we may be able to see the differences, but it's a much different world than like the shift from the PS2 to PS3.
Right.
Well, I think that,
or even PS3 to PS4.
I mean, yeah. I would say that even between PS3 and PS4, visual fidelity became much less of a thing because we kind of hit a point where everything looks real fucking good.
Yes.
And producing
Yeah.
HD assets, that's just expected from a, let's say, a first-party developer. Like, you expect everything to look real amazing. So I think it comes down to services, and it comes down to what it offers in the periphery. And I think Microsoft does that pretty well, to be fair. And they did kind of try something unique by trying to make it the center of the living room box with the HDMI through and everything like that. So I think I know, but like if they could come up with something that would be truly innovative, because like if we take visual fidelity out of the picture, and what's the point of having a console in your living room? Like, they're gonna have to come up with something that we don't have already. And I think Microsoft does tend to have kind of pie in the sky ideas about that kind of stuff, so they could potentially come up with something that I would never think of. I think Sony's more likely to just stick to their guns and be kind of simple, which is fine. So I don't know if that necessarily means that Microsoft will do better. I just think they would be more likely to take a risk.
I the thing that I just don't understand what having that kind of center of the living room thing, what kind of innovation they could do. I mean, again, they'd probably have to think of something completely new, but every TV that's sold right now is like a smart TV, so you can play whatever you want on it. Every getting a Blu-ray tape player is remarkably cheap. Getting a Roku, getting a Chromecast is remarkably cheap. So even as somebody that streams a lot and who could use a lot of that content, I just see zero value in adding another thing like that beyond the few Xbox One games that are exclusive. But I just don't know. I feel like it'd have to be a major innovation to get people to accept it as something like that versus mostly for games.
Well, Microsoft is also in a way different position than they were at the launch of the Xbox One, with like Don Matrix gone, Phil Spencer's in there, and
everyone loves Phil Spencer.
Yeah, everyone loves Phil Spencer. Like they're gonna put Phil Spencer in every box.
Fall sponsor.
Fall sponsor.
Fall sponsor is we need to get some fall sponsors.
I think fall sponsor has some kind of bike business in Portland.
Spencer is actually Phil Spencer, so thanks, Phil Spencer. He just told us to push Earthworm Jim.
But yeah, one of the things that I'm just curious about is like the leadership is like totally different at the two companies now, and like the leadership that led into the creation of the PS4 and the Xbox One, where Phil Spencer seems to really get what people are wanting out of their consoles, like on like a personal level, where I don't get that feeling from Sony anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if I was ever actually there, but when Jack Tretton was up there saying like, and you're gonna pay for online, and everyone lost their minds. I don't feel like you can get that from
there's definitely
leadership there.
It's definitely been like a back and forth. Yeah, you're right. Of like when 360 came out, it seemed like the fun, like Sony seemed like the tone deaf ones in that generation, and then moving into this one, Microsoft seemed like, but like now, if I were buying based on the people behind the product, I would buy an Xbox, no question. Like I don't like any of the messaging that's come out of Sony in recent years. Really,
they don't have any of the games I want to play.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't buy an Xbox.
I'm at the point where I basically don't need to have both consoles, and so it really just comes down to fundamentally what are the exclusives. And since I don't have like a great gaming PC, but it's I have a decent enough gaming PC that can still play every game, play it on high. And so it's like, if there's no real exclusives for Xbox, why would I need it? Like I feel like you can say, oh, that I like the leadership at one company more than another, and I think that makes sense. But at the end of the day, it's that's not going to matter to the vast majority of people making their console decisions.
Yeah, that's very true. If you're thinking about the mom who's picking up a console for her kid, her 12-year-old kid, and the husband, like, is she going to be paying attention to whether or not Kaz Hirai is there?
No, of course not.
But it'll be interesting to see what the decisions are that are made by the new leaderships at
for
both
sure.
places, because we could get a very, like, that could result in very different products and different focuses. So that's what I'm kind of curious about, is what happens.
I've got a pizza bet for you all that is what is definitely going to happen.
Pizza in Japan is really expensive, so I don't know if you want to make that bet.
I'm fully happy to make that bet because I know that it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. The next is going to be a slightly more powerful box. That's what the next generation of consoles is going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be a slightly more powerful box. No gimmicks. No fucking around. This generation proved that gimmicks don't work. So the USP for both consoles is going to be it's faster, it's more powerful, it's backwards compatible. You can.
I think backwards compatible I could see making sense because that's Xbox One is a lot of good favor, to the point where if I grew up with Xbox games, I'd be really considering getting an Xbox One right now. I just don't have that like history with them to like need to go play those.
I'll do you one better. At least the next PlayStation, if not the next of both consoles, the PlayStation 4 Pro will play the games that the next PlayStation can play, and the PlayStation 4 launch will not. I think they're going to adopt fully a Apple model of
I could see that
release cycle where they will iterate, because it's already on an architecture that doesn't make sense for it to not be backwards compatible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the PS4 Pro is powerful enough to play pretty much any game you could release right now reasonably. And
if you don't draw the line, people won't buy the 5, so that's not going to be the case. Like, I like from a business sense, it doesn't make sense to do that. No,
but not. It depends on the sales of the PS4 Pro, because if not, I mean, like, I will buy a PlayStation 5 or whatever they call it if it is a system that is a step up from a PS4 Pro that ages out my current base PS4. I don't know what the numbers are. Talking again about like the person who buys a console for their kid at Christmas, how many of those people purchased a PS4 Pro? I would bet the numbers are not there in a way.
I bet they're low.
And I mean, even as somebody that is clued into gaming and likes playing video games, I'm still like, I don't know if I need a PlayStation 4, PS4 Pro. I'm probably going to wait for the PlayStation 5. And so it's like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are waiting for that next iteration and don't necessarily need or want the like Pro editions of these consoles.
And the people that bought a PS4 Pro are going to buy a 5 anyway because they bought a Pro.
Right.
Like they're going to want the best they can get right now.
Yeah,
and
they're
so
the
they will keep buying
enthusiast
the
market.
One. So I don't know. I think that's how it'll go.
So, I don't know, if you end up saying, "Hey, this will work on your PS4 Pro," then maybe those people who went out right away won't immediately jump on a PS5 because the Pro didn't come out that long ago.
Yeah.
But then then you've got all the people who just have a vanilla PlayStation jumping on the 5 maybe.
And you build a lot of goodwill that makes for those people that didn't upgrade to a Pro. They go, oh, so that means the one after in 2 generations, I'll probably still be able to use this PS5 with whatever comes out in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. So it's worthwhile to upgrade. I don't know.
I think I would be more into it if they did not make it a PlayStation 5. They just made it the PlayStation environment. Yes. Like if they just made it, okay, this is what we are now. Like maybe if there's a box, it's modular and you're just kind of upgrading bits and pieces of it. Then
that's the direction I see Microsoft going in with their way they're interacting with it.
Yeah. So if it became a service, then I would be super into it.
The Xbox is going to be upgradable, and it's going to be just called the Xbox. And I expect that we see it like a year after the PlayStation, and they'll be like, we don't need to upgrade because the Xbox One X is the best system. And then we'll just get every 3 years we'll get a new Xbox, and it'll just be called the Xbox One, 2018, 2016, whatever.
The only thing about that. The only thing about that, though, is that I feel like that could get real confusing for a lot of people. And a lot of people who are drawn to consoles are people that don't necessarily want to think of it in a modular PC sense of like, oh, can I play this game or can I play this game? And I mean, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but I just don't know if that'll 100% make business sense to be like, oh, well, this game will run on this, but it might not run with this software. Like a lot of people who like consoles like them because they're easy, or like them because it's, that putting a game into your console, it's going to work.
I think that the only thing you're going to be able to upgrade is going to be the graphics card and like hard drive. I think pretty much everything else will be consistent.
Yeah.
Starting to get into like the RAM, the RAM expansion area of like the N64. Just like,
Yeah.
I don't foresee a world where any of these things lock you out of playing something either. I think the next Xbox will probably have upgradable components to put it more in line with PCs, but I also think that it'll be like, you can play any Xbox game on any Xbox, but if you buy this thing, it might make it better.
Right.
Right.
Will
If
that
you
make
don't,
development for it like kind of problematic though. You have to test it on every iteration or.
It only doesn't because they already do that for PC games, and they're the same architecture now.
That's true.
Otherwise, yes, you'd be right.
If you're making a game and testing it on currently, there's 3 Xbox SKUs. There's going to be 4.
Yeah, there's 2. Like the S, all it adds.
One S is different.
All it adds is the HDR.
And it'll still be less complex than PCs, where PC developers have to test for different chipsets and for different graphics card configurations and manufacturers. Whereas, Microsoft will still control everything down that chain. So there will still be a finite number of hardware specs that developers will have to troubleshoot for. So I think it's very doable. And I actually think too that Sony, again, this is sort of if I were working at Sony, this is probably what I would do, because I think that's the direction Microsoft is going to go in. If I were Sony, I would say, we're not even putting out any crazy new hardware. We're putting out this half step up from the Pro that maybe ages out the PS4. But hey, if you live in an area where you have really fast internet, we're going to sell you this box that costs $150. You plug it into your router with a wired connection, plug that wired connection into a TV or whatever, and then you can just stream games all you want. You can stream the newest PlayStation 5 game. There's no hardware in the box that's plugged into your router. It's just a streaming box. Because like PlayStation Now works. It only works in places where there's really good internet. So they have to release a standard console too for everyone. But I could see them going that route too, where like we're selling you a box that has no hardware in it. It just streams stuff, and it's got a fast Wi-Fi, because like Wi-Fi is getting new Intel Wi-Fi releases are going to be even faster than Cat 5 and Cat 6. So we have a controller that connects to your Wi-Fi, so you can play with this controller anywhere in the house on any display that's plugged in, or hell, even connected via fast Wi-Fi. So that they're really going after like the I have fast internet and I just want to play games as easy as possible market, and Microsoft's going into the more like, I don't want to go through the hassle of building a PC, but I want to pretend like I want customizable console stuff. That's kind of the way I see it going. And then you have Nintendo in the middle that's like, we just make fun games on an easy to use machine.
Yeah. Debatable.
What, the fun games?
I don't see Sony ever doing anything that isn't, this is the best console you can buy. It's a console. It has controller ports. Thank you.
But the best console you can buy is one that you don't even have to plug into your television.
But
that's your mind.
The company that sells televisions, I think that they're going to want to like make themselves the owner of the living room, like they mostly currently are, because they own Blu-ray, they own.
But what if they could own all your rooms by giving you a box that beams to any of them?
Then the 85% of the world that doesn't have good internet is not going to buy it. I don't think that Sony's going to put 2 SKUs out because they don't want to confuse people. I think that Sony is...
They already have, though.
Yeah, but for a console launch.
Oh, I don't think this is something that you're going to see them like launch alongside anything else. And I'm not saying I'm positive that they're even going to do it in the first place. I just think it'd be smart. I think you would need to launch it very much like a year after you put out your next thing, so that you are not cannibalizing the sales of the next thing after that. Because then you target people that wouldn't buy it anyway.
I'll tell you what I think the actual next thing for Sony is, and it's a portable PS4 that's a tablet that's basically a Switch.
If they do that, they're chasing Switch, and I think that's like, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's totally possible. I think that would be the wrong move for them, though.
I think that we'll get a PS5 and then we'll get a portable PS4 that's got vanilla PS4 hardware.
Hot scoop, I've got the name of the next PlayStation portable system. PS Mortem.
It was going to be the PS I Love You, but Gerard Butler sued. I think I do think that they've talked a lot about portables recently, and I think that Sony makes like semi-decent Android tablets, and I think that they're going to use that know-how and make something that can play games you can buy from the PlayStation Store.
You're probably right.
I don't know if they're going to have limits on it. They're going to be like, you can play Until Dawn, but you can't play God of War.
They made that PlayStation phone.
Yeah, they've already done it once.
That thing wasn't very good, though.
No, I almost wasn't. But
me too.
PS4 remote play for phones is apparently very good.
Transferring.
Yeah, my brother when we went on holiday to Longleat this year, he brought his phone and he just clipped on a DualShock 4 and played a daily mission in Destiny, and it was just like through shitty hotel Wi-Fi, well, villa Wi-Fi, and like he was like, "Yeah, my PS4's wired at home. Doesn't really matter about the connection on the other end," and like genuinely, like he just played a bit of Destiny, and he's like, "Yeah, I've done this multiple times. It's really well done."
Yeah, and I guess the thing about it that I don't understand, I think, again, to be clear, I'm not arguing with you. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm arguing with the hypothetical Sony exec in this situation. Is like, given that, why wouldn't I just keep using my phone and not buy their fancy new tablet thing? And I don't think that they're going to
get that on Sony phones, and a lot of people don't have Sony phones.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I still think
well, actually, you can download the app for anything. You just like sideload it if you've got Android.
Right. I guess I just think that, like, again, I still I think that's a very potential direction for them to go in, but it still shows that they're not really getting it, I guess, because I think that it would be smarter for them to say, hey, we're going to make this app experience work really well on your existing phone and tablet to get you into our ecosystem. But I think the hypothetical you're presenting is probably more realistic than the one that I am, even if I think my idea is smarter.
The problem with getting it on phones and tablets is that not every manufacturer is going to get on board. If not every manufacturer is on board with it, for example, Apple is never going to let you sell PlayStation games on their phone through anything.
But they do already.
We've already seen that with Valve, though, with Steam.
Yeah, well, like you can't buy anything on an Apple device without giving 30% of that sale to Apple. In-app purchases anywhere.
You can buy stuff through the PS app. Apple maybe, but you can buy stuff through the PlayStation Store app on Android.
Yeah. You can buy games and stuff, but not for your iPhone.
But it wouldn't be for your iPhone. It would be for a PlayStation 4 that you can stream it to.
But that's the exact issue that Valve just ran into, and now they're like, theoretically that's going to get worked out. But
you're right. With Apple, I don't think it'll work, but I don't know. I still see that as being a smart.
Apple has a very small market share compared to Android, but also Android, there's so much 20%. Fragmentation. There's like so much fragmentation there that, like, you're going to get such a small subset of people.
Which is
95% of Android phones can't run the latest OS.
I think you guys are both right, and that's why I think no matter what Sony tries to do, they're gonna try to do something to capture some of the Switch market, and they're gonna fail, and people are still gonna buy Switches because Switches are still gonna be a better option than whatever Sony comes up with.
But what if Sony puts out a handheld console that can play Resident Evil 7? It can play all those games that people are like, oh, I wish it was on the Switch.
Persona 5
actually does. That Switch could play Persona 5. It's not that bad. But yeah, if they put out a thing that actually is like focused on like on power instead of like obviously you'll be playing a compromised version because you're not going to get that kind of performance out of a handheld thing. It's a GTX 1080 in your hands.
But do you really want to play God of War on a handheld?
I don't, but apparently people do.
I don't think they will when they see it.
Plays every game on Switch. I love it. So
yeah, because Switch games are like work for the form factor though.
If you
That's the
give
beauty of it.
Give technology like 2-3 years, and a PS4 will fit in something the size of your phone.
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying
I think that
it'll work.
I think what we'll get is something that is between phone and tablet size, so like 6 to 7 inches, with a snap-on controller grip. So like, but not like a Joy-Con. So I'd say I'm assuming it's all one frame that you clip around the edge, and it is just a PS4. It literally, the insides are a PS4. It has PS4 software. It runs anything a vanilla PS4 can run.
I can see it not doing well in the States, like whatever portable thing they do, but I could see if they could make a more powerful portable console, it doing well overseas in Japan, China, places like that.
Could be.
I can tell you right now, it would do amazing for kids, because I know, like when in my old job, I had a load of just around Christmas, I had a load of people come up to me and like, hey, I know you play video games. What would you recommend I buy my son? And I was like, everyone buy them a Switch. It's the best option. It's like, and they
Switch
all
doesn't have Xboxes. Switch doesn't have Fortnite.
And they all bought Xboxes to play Fortnite and Minecraft.
If Sony could put out a handheld console that plays Fortnite, game over, man.
They could put that out
an Xperia phone,
though.
Yeah, but like they play it on their phones, but like it's garbage. They could actually play Fortnite.
I saw it. I didn't know that I mentioned this, but I saw teens playing PUBG in real world on their phones before I saw teens playing Fortnite.
You can't actually play Fortnite on a PS4 anyway because it's not a personal computer.
Wait, isn't what? Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm just fucking with you. I don't actually believe that.
No. I was like, wait, isn't it what? But no, I see what you're putting down. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think I'm a real cynical person when it comes to the next gen, but I'm optimistic in that I do want a upgraded PS4. Like, I want a shit hot PS4 because I have a lot of digital content. I have like 200 digital games for my PS4.
I'm sure your PS4 gets pretty hot when you play Detroit.
Well, you know, I have the professional edition PlayStation 4, so I don't know. I'm never close enough to my PS4 to find out.
But okay, yeah. So I think we can kind of wrap this up. We've been going almost 2 hours now, but I'm curious, like, what would make you excited about like a next generation of consoles? Like, what is there anything currently where you're like, I'm not seeing it, or what would you need?
I want it to be fully backwards compatible, smaller, quieter, and colder.
Okay. I mean, the backwards compatibility does make me excited. Like, that would genuinely, as somebody that's getting kind of into like retro games, the more virtual console type backwards compatibility, I think that's really valuable and really exciting.
I mean, it's only going to be back to the PS4. Like, let's not go crazy.
Right, exactly. But I mean, anything's better than nothing.
If they make it powerful enough, maybe they could emulate the cell processor.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's honestly, the most powerful processor ever devised.
Yeah.
Honestly, consoles, though, it's all about the games for me. And unless there's like something where they're showing, look, this game is clearly better because of XYZ, that's what I want. I don't really necessarily care about form factor that much, although I do love my Switch, so that's a lie. But it's mostly, you know, if I see that there's a lot of great games on the way for the next gen of consoles, then that's what I'm gonna get.
I think for me, it's inter-device connectivity. There is no reason why I shouldn't be able to log into Destiny and look at, even if I can't play a strike, like get my ducks in a row so that I'm ready to log in. And like, as soon as I get home, like I'm taking the bus on the way home from work, I should be able to log into Destiny, get everything ready to go, so that as soon as I walk in the door at home, I can just sit down and be playing a strike. Like, and that extends to other games too. Like, I should be able to check my State of Decay 2 resource levels on my phone before I get home to get into play. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to see.
So you want to take a trip back to 2014 and second screen experiences?
Sort of, but good ones that don't suck.
Alex, do you have any thoughts?
That hasn't really been said. I mean, I'd still stand by that if it was more of a service than a console, that would probably be my preference. But I also don't know how they would do that with the hardware and keep that relatively accessible for average Joe Schmo.
On live. Everything is on live.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting one. Quick thought. If Sony comes out to you and they say, we've got the PS5, it's $200 and $10 a month, and you have to keep it for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, you have an option of upgrading to the PS5 2023 edition. Or you can keep your PS5 and still play $10 a month.
Wasn't Microsoft playing with that idea for a little while with the 360?
You can buy it from Microsoft stores.
Yeah, I
$100 for the Xbox, and you had to have a 3-year contract to Xbox Live.
Yeah, the subsidized model. I don't think that worked in their little experiment, so I don't know if it would work this time either.
Like, so wait, okay, in the scenario you were proposing, you're paying $200.
Yeah.
And then you're paying $10 a month on top of that?
Yeah. I mean, like most mobile phone contracts.
Yeah. But, okay, so I'm walking through this. And then if you don't upgrade, you still continue to pay $10 a month?
To get Plus or whatever.
No, could I just buy a year of Plus?
Yes.
Okay, well then, like...
So basically, you have to pay for Plus and probably PlayStation Now or something.
Like, I mean, that would be a lot. I would probably jump on a PS5 a lot quicker in that scenario. Instead of having, like, it's just a lot easier. I don't know. In the past, I haven't had like a job or like savings, so like, getting to the point where I could save up to buy a console. Like I was 13, 14 when the PS4 came out or PS3 came out. So, like,
I got a PS3 for my 21st birthday on launch.
Like I bought myself first console I bought myself. I guess I bought like a 3DS for myself and stuff, but I bought like a PS4 for myself for a birthday present, and that was like, whoa. I didn't have a job at that moment either, but decisions. I think I would be a lot quicker to jump on a subsidized console, because like I would plan to keep it and play it, and like I can just go, okay, yeah, I can have $10 a month to play this console because I'm going to be paying it anyway.
I think with the move away from subsidized phones, I'm thinking very United States focused too, so I apologize, but like I don't think it would really work that well here, because like new people are kind of forgetting that ever was a thing, because it's like not really a thing now.
It's because they replaced the model,
right?
And you're paying the full price just over. Yeah.
Subsidized phones are huge in the UK. I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but
I don't know how it works.
Every phone is free on contract or reasonably priced on contract.
That's how it was in the States until a few years ago, and then it changed here. I don't know how it works in like China. I would think, my thought whenever I catch myself and go like, wait, no, I'm being specific to the US, is like, how do they do it in China? Because that's probably the way that it'll matter too.
The biggest market in the world.
Yeah.
But speaking of the biggest market in the world,
the market of ideas.
Yeah. I wanted to talk very shortly about next week's episode. Next week's episode is our E3
the biggest market in the world, the LA Convention Center.
We're going from the biggest market in the world to the biggest gaming convention in the world.
I thought it was a flea market.
I'm pretty sure Gamescom is bigger than E3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even true though.
Remind me to tell you the story about the World of Tanks booth at Gamescom and how weird it was. Anyway, So E3. What we're going to do is the whole of next week is going to be E3. Maybe a betting / kind of prediction special. What I'm going to do is I will write up a load of predictions, so like 10 or 20 or so, and everyone will weigh in yes or no as to whether they think that thing is going to happen. And there'll be points for those, and then everyone will have the chance to give a set number of predictions for each press conference, and you get more points for the bets that you personally make up if they turn out to be right. So it's going to be not super complicated. I'm going to try and keep it as easy and simple as we can. That's why I'm going to make up a lot of the bets, just so that it's kind of similar to the quiz format. So that's the current plan. Obviously, things can change in the next week, and we won't announce anything, but you guys can listen along with us.
No looking at leaks. No cheating.
Yes, agreed.
If you see a headline, it's like,
forget about it. Forget about it.
Shield your eyes. Stay off the internet for a week. No reading articles about E3 leaks.
I kind of want to go the other way around because I want to get as deep and accurate as I can.
I mean, no leaks.
No leaks.
Make the game fun. It's 1 week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 1 week since you leaked to me.
It's been a great podcast, everyone.
Wow.
So that's next week's episode. The one thing that I might say that we might slightly deviate from that format is I will have finished Detroit. So if everyone is interested in hearing my thoughts on Detroit after having finished it, I might take 10 minutes.
I actually almost would, if anyone, I don't know, I would be interested almost in breaking that out into a separate discussion, to be honest with you. I don't plan on playing through that game, but I do plan on reading the entire plot line and trying to understand all the aspects of the story this week so I can have an intelligent discussion about it. And it'd be interesting to talk about it at length.
Pat, if you wanted to do a spoiler cast about Detroit, I am not working all week, and until Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday night, I do not have to be sensitive of my other half because she is not here.
We should talk. We'll talk.
Yeah. I'll probably finish that game by like 2 in the afternoon tomorrow because it's apparently 12 to 15 hours. And I think I've played at least 4 or 5. And I get up pretty early.
Cool.
Anyway, yes. Thanks everyone for listening this week. Thanks everyone for appearing on the show as well. Don't say that often enough. If you'd like to get involved in next week's betting special, you're probably one of our friends. So just get in touch with us. Just people can submit bets if you want. So if you're listening, the people that I know listen every week: Chris, Cheska, Xavier. If you want to, if you'd like to submit a bet, pass it on to one of the crew, and I will vet it and add it to the list. But yeah, so I think that could be pretty fun. Me and the guys will talk about this more during the week and probably firm up some fun things. But I think that's it. Anyone else want to say anything?
Nope.
You can find us at FYX Podcasts on Facebook and Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to find everything because all our profiles are linked on those pages.
Yeah, we've said it a lot.
Oh, yeah. I need to put the Pornhub one on there.
Oh,
yeah.
God damn it.
Now, Alex,
is
I
this
think
identity
you should start commenting really wholesome, nice things on videos.
I'm just commenting on Fortnite videos.
You should comment. You should comment on you should comment on adult content, but very wholesome comments.
Yeah. Look how much they love each other.
She looks like a nice lady.
Yes.
That is not a comment I would make. I would not comment on a porn video, but that is something I would say.
There you go. See? We're just
in character already.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please make sure you visit Andre's profile on Pornhub.
Yikes, that looks like it hurt.
Not my
Oh,
profile.
no.
Alex's profile. He stole my identity.
Gosh, that's big.
I think he posted my social security number on there.
Oh yeah, I did.
Sweet. Time for some cool identity theft.
I also put your license plate on there.
Oh,
My license plate. I don't have a car.
yet.
Shit.
We bought you a car.
And it's got a Pornhub logo on it.
It's the Pornhub car.
It's the Pornhub car.
I can't drive that to school.
It's affectionately called the Hubmobile.
Okay,
Both
we
the
have to
headlamps
stop.
are blue.
Okay. I think we need to call it.
Porn hubcaps.
The tailpipe
Okay.
is a dick.
Oh god.
That wouldn't make any sense.
No, it's where you put your dick.
I mean, it sticks out. It's a roadster. Thanks everyone for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Gotta get in tune with Sailor Moon because that
Bye,
cartoon's
everyone.
got the boom anime videos that make me think the
Yeah.
wrong thing.
Yeah. It's a good song.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Let's stop this podcast again.
Bye.
Like and subscribe.
So long.